10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Roger, roll, Challenger.
On January 28, 1986, powered by these incredible rockets, Space Shuttle Challenger lifted its 7 crew members into the skies. Just 73 seconds into Challenger's flight, disaster struck.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
It was the worst accident in NASA's history. All the crew were killed.
We have no downlink.
Falling from a height of 30 miles, the shattered wreckage crashed into the sea for over 5 minutes after the explosion. Somehow, the world's most sophisticated and amazing machine had failed. For months, NASA searched the ocean depths, looking for vital pieces of an impossible jigsaw, hoping for an explanation for the catastrophe. Amazingly, they recovered 45% of Challenger itself and most of the SRBs. They stored the wreckage in a disused warehouse. Then NASA began a detailed examination, uncertain of what they would find. But the investigators had one vital tool to help them: NASA's cameras. Studying Challenger's doomed liftoff, they quickly noticed something unusual. When its boosters ignited, a puff of black smoke was clearly seen emerging from a lower joint. As the shuttle shot higher, flames began licking the side of the giant external tank. The Challenger's solid fuel rocket booster was leaking gases at 8,000 degrees. Examination of the wreckage confirmed their suspicion. The Challenger's right booster had a giant hole burned right through it. But why had the booster leaked? Where the segments of the boosters meet, thick rubber O-rings form a gas-tight seal. NASA's inquiry revealed that hot gas had damaged the O-rings on 12 previous shuttle flights, but with no malfunctions. This time, something was different. It was the weather. On the day of Challenger's launch, the temperature had plunged to just 36 degrees, 15 degrees colder than on any previous launch. Ice had formed on the pad overnight. It had also frozen the booster's rubber O-rings. The freeze made them tough and inflexible. At the moment of ignition, they leaked, and Challenger was doomed.
It's the closest you'll ever get to a real...
The searing hot gases pouring from the leak burned away the booster's lower strut. 73 seconds into the flight, the booster broke free. It smashed into the giant external tank and punctured it. 1/3 of a million gallons of liquid hydrogen ignited and exploded in a giant fireball. But it wasn't the explosion that destroyed Challenger. At 4,000 miles an hour, the shuttle was blasted sideways. It disintegrated into hundreds of pieces, but the tiny crew compartment remained intact, possibly preserving the lives of the 7 astronauts until their tragic crash into the ocean. Until that day, the United States had dominated the space race for over 20 years. Now, the field was open, and the competition moved in.
The launching business is becoming more and more competitive every day. The Europeans, the Americans, the Chinese, the Russians, they're all playing in the launch vehicle game. It's no longer just government payloads, it's now commercial payloads.
Satellite technology has fueled our insatiable hunger for instant communication and up-to-the-minute information from around the planet. And that hunger has initiated a new era in the history of space exploration, the race to make space pay. Each year, hundreds of payloads are sent into orbit. The industry is worth billions of dollars. Rockets are big business. The Space Shuttle is back, leading the race for the space dollar, despite being grounded for 2 years after the Challenger disaster. Its ability to deliver, repair, and retrieve space cargo is unique. It has carried more tons of payload into space than any other vehicle. But the strongest competition has come from Russia, which has thrown all its energy and resources into the new space race. This launcher was intended to fly Buran, the Russian copy of the American Space Shuttle. They call this rocket Energia. It stands 200 feet tall. Its 8 engines generate more than 4,000 tons of thrust. This is the most powerful rocket ever built. In 1987, Energia smashed all launching records. It lifted a massive 100 tons of payload, 3 times the maximum capacity of the shuttle, and more even than the mighty Saturn V that pushed men to the moon. In February 1996, the Chinese attempted to launch an American communications satellite on a rocket called Long March 3. Only a few seconds after liftoff, it veered wildly off course and nosedived towards the southwestern province of Sichuan. It crashed directly into a nearby village, destroying 250 buildings. The Chinese authorities claim only 6 people were killed. In that same year, America's biggest competitor in the launch market suffered a terrible setback because of a simple human error. The Ariane series of rockets successfully launched payloads for the European Space Agency, ESA, for nearly 20 years. Ariane-4 averaged 1 launch every 4 weeks, offering tremendous reliability to the commercial space transport business. It was the most effective unmanned launch system in the world. In June 1996, ESA unveiled its star attraction, a rocket they hoped would take them into the lead in the launching market. Ariane-5. It stands over 25 stories high. It is a highly sophisticated 2-stage rocket. For its first launch, it would carry 2 pairs of satellites held in separate compartments in its upper stage. The huge cryogenic tank in its main stage stores its fuel at minus 420 degrees Fahrenheit. It burns 160 tons of liquid hydrogen and oxygen, channeled through just 1 engine. As with the Space Shuttle, solid propellant boosters provide the majority of its takeoff thrust, 80% of the power needed to lift it off the pad. They intended it to be the crowning moment in European space history. On June 4th, 1996, Ariane-5 would lift off from ESA's launch pad in French Guiana on her maiden flight.
À tous de l'aider. Attention pour décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, unité, feu. Allumage.
Ariane-5 had cost $8 billion to develop, representing 10 years of international effort. 30 seconds into its flight, it suddenly changed direction and headed for the local town of Sinemari. As Ariane-5 exploded, hundreds of tons of rocket parts and toxic chemicals rained down on the jungle.
It is very difficult to make a rocket perform perfectly. A rocket is a very complex system with many elements and subsystems, and all of them must work perfectly when required. And in our life, in our business, we either have 100% success or 100% failure. There is nothing in between.
ESA salvaged as much of Ariane-5 as possible, but their investigation discovered that the rocket itself had performed perfectly. The problem lay in the computer code that operated it.
Well, there were basically two reasons for the crash. The first one was that there was a software failure in the inertia guidance system. And the second one was that this failure was not detected during the extensive tests which have been done.
Rockets navigate using inertial guidance systems controlled by onboard computers. Both computer guidance systems on Ariane-5 had failed. The reason was a simple human oversight. Engineers had loaded Ariane-5 with computer software from the earlier